All right, everyone. Welcome to Set Up to Scale with Lauren Duke. You guys are here for a reason. As agents, we wear a lot of hats. That means we have a lot of systems. And yet, at the same time, it can feel like we're still doing everything ourselves. We know that we want to grow our impact and grow our business, but we also don't want it to mean that we're spending all of our time doing everything. But we want to grow in a way that feels right to us, that maintains our voice, maintains our integrity. And so, how do we do that? How do we hire the right people? How do we set up the systems that represent us in the way that we want them to, and still feel fulfilled? And so, Lauren is the master of all systems, especially within real estate. She's going to speak with us today on how to connect all of those dots, hopefully, to spot some gaps in our business so that we can start to head in that direction. Lauren, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I just realized my headshot is so much more professional than like I actually show up. Um, I feel like the last couple calls I'm like in my sweatshirt and hair in a ponytail. It's fine. I get dressed sometimes, but thank you so much for having me. Today we're going to talk about getting your business and system set up to scale. And I know that sometimes the word scale makes people a little hesitant, right? Like they either are thinking, "Oh, I can't handle any more business. Like I don't want to scale. I don't want to spend any more time than I already am on my business." And I completely get that. I really do. So at CoreOps, the company that I own, scaling, it doesn't have to mean a massive, overwhelming growth. Okay. Scaling can simply be getting your business to a point where you can actually do the things that you want to do, right? Like going on field trips with your kids or having the vacation and know that balls aren't being dropped and clients are being taken care of and all of that, right? The scaling can mean like having days where you'd normally be sitting at your computer doing admin work or whatever, late nights, whatever, having the peace of mind knowing that it's being done for you. Okay. And to Kate's point, not just being done, but like being done in the way that you actually want. So having that level of control because you have the systems and the structure and the standards and expectation built in. Okay. So whether scaling to you means growing a massive empire or just having more time to do whatever you want with your life, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, when you think of scaling or growing, like I just said, you usually think of more leads, more transactions, more people, more clients. You just keep piling more and more and more on because there's a new system, a new program, a new process, a new marketing strategy, a new lead gen company, whatever. But regardless, if you do not have the structure in place to allow you to scale, that's exactly when burnout happens. And burnout might feel like a buzzword these days. It definitely does for me because I feel like it's kind of losing its effect. The word, I mean, everybody's just like, "Oh, I'm burnt out." But like, what does that even mean, right? Burnout is when you start getting inconsistent results. It's when you feel like you're hiring out of pain and you're creating these band-aid fixes on things that probably have pretty simple solutions. If you were to just take a little bit of time and slow down and figure out what the structure needs to look like, then those mistakes, they either wouldn't have been made or they wouldn't have been as bad, right? And that can come with a real problem. When you talk about systems or delegating or bringing someone new into your business, a lot of times you can go to another agent, another, business owner, whatever, and you're asking them like, "Hey, what did you do when you brought an admin on or when you were creating the structure to grow? What did you do?" Right? And that's a phenomenal way to start brainstorming, but your business is different, right? all realtors, I will say this 9 gazillion times because it's true. All realtors, they do this same thing when it comes to the actual transactional piece, right? You all help people buy and sell real estate, but the way that you run your business is so unique. So you get these ideas from other people, but they aren't what you exactly need, right? And so you're left wondering, like, is this even going to help me? I still don't know how to delegate. I still don't know, like, you know, are these activities that they are going to start doing even conducive to my own business, right? And you're left wondering, like, when should I bring this person on? Can I even afford them? How do I make sure that they're successful in their role, right? Ultimately, you're left essentially wondering what structure you're still missing. And that is why systems need to come first. Okay. So if you want to get yourself and your business set up to scale and allow your business to run without you being the bottleneck, you have to prioritize the system and the structure. When you keep adding more and more and more on, you're just continuously exposing your weak systems. Okay. And I forgot to go to the next slide. Sorry. But you're going to see those communication gaps. You're going to see where the ball is getting dropped. The standards and expectations that you have tirelessly worked to maintain for your clients to make sure that they have the best experience possible. If you don't have those written down and you bring someone else in, those standards are going to slip. There is a saying that I love. I have it written on my whiteboard above me. The standard that you walk past is the standard that you accept. Okay. And if you bring someone in and you don't have those standards and expectations set in place for you, your problems are just going to be completely magnified. Um, and so what what does structure actually do for you? Okay. It is going to protect your client experience, number one, right? Every single client should have the same experience, whether it's you sending the emails or you going on the showings or, you going to the inspection or someone else. It should be that black and white there, where even if they do it slightly different, the outcome is the same. The client still has the same, feel good experience in the end. And it's also going to help you reduce decision fatigue. A lot of people at this stage, they confuse delegating with deciding. And you bring someone in or you bring someone on, onto your team, into your business, whatever, and you tell them, I want you to do my newsletter and social media. And they say, great, okay, how? If you don't have the playbook or the SOP, the standard operating procedure, you're just essentially passing the buck, right? They're going to continuously come back to you asking, do you like this? Is this good? Did I use the correct font? Is the caption okay? Did I write it in your voice? All of that. And all you're doing is pushing the work down the line for you to ultimately make the same decision that you would have made anyway. So that's why having effective SOPs is so crucial because it's actually making delegation possible. Okay. So, how do we write these? You can go to ChatGPT or Claude or, whichever one you like and ask for, a buyer side SOP for the state of North Carolina. And it might get you like 60% of the way there, but you still need the intricacies of your specific business. Okay. So an SOP, or like I said, standard operating procedure, is truly just a documented process that explains what happens in what order, using what tools, and who is it owned by, right? It does not have to be some crazy long 40-page manual, and you want to make it kindergarten style. right? If I read it, I should know exactly where to click in dot loop and how to save the PDF and what specific blurb to write in the email to the listing agent and blah, 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 right? You have to be specific down to the micro step, okay? And in order to in order to do that, we use the who, what, where, when, why, how framework, okay? So the the who is the owner. Does this belong to you, an admin? Is it automated? Okay. What is the task? What are they actually doing? That's the what. Okay. And it needs to have a clear name for it. And then where is it being done? Is it being done in the CRM? Is it being done in, Gmail and at using a specific template? Whatever. Um, and then there's the when. That's the trigger. This is what actually starts the process. So, how would an admin know it's time to do the task? For me, I know on my team, if someone messages me on Facebook, for example, I screenshot their info and I text it to my admin. It's not some crazy, like overcomplicated system. That's the trigger. She knows to put that information into the CRM now. And those are the things that you're looking for as you go through the day to day in your business. It's like, it doesn't have to be some overcomplicated automation or anything. This is how you'll know when to get started on it. And then you have the why. The why is incredibly important and gets missed a lot. But the why is how this person in this role is going to know if they are going to be successful. So you're essentially asking, what does a job well done look like, right? And then finally, you have the how. These are the actual instructions. It can be as simple as, log in, click this button, and go here, go there, send this person that information. Or you could have it incredibly detailed. I have seen Kate's SOPs, and they are the most detailed and beautiful. But the goal is that someone can look at it and understand exactly what they are supposed to be doing without you needing to explain it over and over and over again. Okay? So, just a super quick example, buyer consultation, right? The why is that the client at the end of it feels informed, the agent's ready. The trigger would be that form submission. Okay, so let's say buyer reaches out to you and they want to schedule a consultation. You either get it into your calendar manually or you have it via Calendly, Google Calendar, whatever. And then some type of automation is sending out a Google form or something that's asking the buyer just a little bit more information about them so you can go in fully prepped and ready, right? And so the steps, what that would look like is the form response gives the email notification to the agent and the admin. The lead info goes into the CRM. The agent is supposed to review the form response, prep for the call, and the admin makes sure that none of the balls got dropped, right? They make sure that the agent has the calendar link and preps any materials that they would need for the appointment. And you could go even deeper on that. How does the admin prep? They go into Canva or Google Drive 24 hours prior, right? And with the end goal of making sure that this consultation leads to a signed buyer's rep agreement. That's how they know that they are helping the agent win. Okay. So with having SOPs set up, okay, you're finally going to be able to bring a new person in successfully because you have the structure for them to actually win. So I want you to ask yourself, if someone shadowed you for an entire week, would they be able to replicate what you do without you explaining it to them live? And if they can't, the process is not clear yet, and it's probably just living in your head. And when the process lives in your head, it is incredibly difficult to be able to scale. And when you try to, people feel like they're trying to read your mind. And I can tell you firsthand on both sides of the spectrum of being someone that thought someone else could read my mind as well as trying to read someone else's, you you will not be able to scale and grow at the rate that you want to. So this is the first gap that you have to fix, and it's the hardest because it's going to force you to slow down. And as agents, we don't like to slow down, right? So when you go through and you're thinking in the who, not how context, it gets a lot easier. Instead of asking yourself, how am I going to do all of this? You want to ask yourself, who is the best person to help me and create the structure for them. And let me make sure I'm on the right slide again. Um, when we think of admin roles, a lot of times we think of them being task checkers. And when you look at the who, not how concept, which is this is a book, by the way. It's not something that like I just created, but it is a book by Dan Sullivan. And if you have not read it, I absolutely highly recommend it. Um, but when you look at an admin role and you're thinking about bringing someone on, a lot of times you are looking at the tasks that they can take off of your plate. And when you start to look at them as a true extension of you and someone who can be revenue generating, someone who can be an actual growth partner for you, you're going to want to have that structure in place. You're going to want them to have that clearly defined role, measurable expectations, all of that, because they need to know when they are winning. So when you have clarity on all of the steps for every single process, I'm talking about like, hey, lead comes in, then what? When are you reaching out? When do you expect, if you're thinking about bringing on an ISA, for example, when do you expect them to reach out? Is it within 5 minutes? Is it within 24 hours? They need to know how they will win in their role. And if they do not have that clarity, they're not going to be able to onboard as fast as you want them to. They're not going to be able to, get to work essentially as fast as you want them to or make you money as fast as you want them to, right? You're going to feel like you're micromanaging them all the time, asking them, "What'd you even do today?" But when you have the clarity, when you have the structure and these SOPs, that clarity is already built into the system there. So I want to I want to ask you, what is one process that you are repeating weekly that currently lives only in your head? And I'm going to challenge you to create the SOP for it. Create the who, what, where, when, why, how for that entire process. And I would be happy to have you email it to me. I'll take a look at it. And if I can't replicate it, then it's very likely that someone else isn't going to be able to replicate it either because they need to be clear. Sometimes you just have to have some unbiased eyeballs on it. So, the last thing is build the business that can grow even when you are not the one holding it together. Okay? We want everybody talks about, wanting your business to run without you or you not being the bottleneck or, running like clockwork, whatever. There's another quote that I love that says, if your business depends solely on you, you don't have a business, you have a job, and the boss is a psychopath. And I feel that to my bones sometimes because we are controlling, right? We want things done the way that we do them. And if we just took a little bit of time to put the structure and the standard and expectation into place, that can be done.
Thank you, Lauren. I
You're
love
so welcome. I feel like
it.
I fly through these every time.
You're good. I wrote
I
down a
need to
few
make
things
them.
as you were talking, so I wanted to just kind of share them if they resonate. So I think when we talk about scaling, in my mind, right, there's two sides of it. There's the process itself, and then there's the voice or the way that you show up. And I think that merging the two is where the magic happens, but that's also what takes the most time. And so I would say keep that in mind as like two different buckets and start with one. Start
Mm-hmm.
with documenting your process and creating that SOP. And then as you have time, create a folder in Google Drive that's an example of your tone, right? These are the things that you would upload into Claude or ChatGPT as a reference for how you like to say things. Create PDFs or print saves of the emails that you send. Take screenshots of the texts that you send. It doesn't have to be something long-winded that you have to spend a ton of time typing out. Use the stuff that you've already done. Take screenshots of the captions that you write. And because at the end of the day, most of the time, the people we hire are also going to be using those systems. And so when they go to take over your social media, sure, they can also go to your Instagram and just take those same screenshots. And maybe that's what you tell them, right? But I would challenge you to compile all of that, put it into Claude and say, hey, based on all of these emails, will you create a tone of voice for how I say things? Same thing for all of them. And say, do this with the intention of knowing that I would like to pass all of this off to someone else in the future. Create some sort of an export for them to reference in terms of what my tone is, the words that I like to use, the way that I show up, and what I want my client to ultimately feel. And then also create a download that they can put into their ChatGPT or their AI to help generate that. And obviously, you're going to have to play with it some, but I think that that's really important because otherwise, it'll feel really overwhelming. You've got some huge document listing everything that you do and how you say everything, right? And so that would be one thing. The other thing I would say is um, I think in the day and age of I honestly got really overwhelmed yesterday because I was scrolling on Instagram and I felt like every reel I was seeing, or at least every other, was someone talking about some Claude system or co-work project that you need to know how to do, and you comment this and I'll send you my free guide or sign up for my class, or I'll send, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I need to know, and all of a sudden I'm behind, and I think sure, there's endless resources, but all of those are always evolving, like digital downloads everyone was providing 3 years ago. And so at the end of the day, just having one or two things that you can pass along, like that's what really matters. And so Lauren said my systems are beautiful. Thank you. But I will give you my hack, which is I have Loom on my computer and I designate one time to sit down and either I am meeting with the person who does the system or I am doing a video of myself talking about how this I do the system, sometimes screen recording it and talking through every single thing that I'm doing. That's step one. At a minimum, I just have a video I can send to someone that says, here's what I do. But if you want to take it a step further, you just copy that transcript, you pop that transcript into Claude, and you just say, hey, create an SOP out of this. And it will generate something beautiful that would have taken you hours. And so, if you can, just do the same thing you've been doing, but just press record. And it doesn't have to be Loom. You can do a Zoom and do the same thing, right? But that's what I would.
Yeah. And just keep, like, when you're doing that, you just need to keep in mind, like, who is doing this? Who, what, where, when, why, how, right? So who is doing it? What is the task that I'm talking about? Or what is the process that I'm talking about? Where is it being done? What all systems do they need to know? What systems do they need to have access to? All of that. When do they get notified? When is it due? What's the deadline of it? All of that. Why? They need to know what winning looks like. Why is it important to the business? How are they like improving the revenue of the business or bringing in leads or whatever it is that aligns with the task. And then the actual how of it is those little micro instructions.
And I think when we're busy but not burnt out is the best time, the only time to really make these in an effective way. I've said this so many times, so if you've been here for a while, then you know what I'm about to say. But if you're new, this might be new to you. But I always when I start to feel like I've been taking on too much, I open two Google documents on my computer and just keep them as open tabs. And one is titled Things I Do Want to Do, and the other is titled Things I Don't Want to Do. And as I go throughout my day, all of those repeating tasks land on one or the other. And then I make sure that whatever I'm working on as outsourcing first starts with the ones I don't want to do. Because I think so often when we think about scaling, we're so fast to see like, man, the solution for at least freeing up my time is someone taking off something from my plate that often is something we want to do, right? And so let's start with the things that we don't have to be the one that does and that doesn't light us up because that's our ultimate goal with scaling is for us to focus on the parts that we love the most. But
Absolutely.
what questions do you guys have about your own systems? Have you tried creating processes for everything or or do they live in your head, Brian?
Um, I really don't have any being new, and I find that I'm doing it all on my own.
Well, I can tell you that you do have them. If you are doing them, you have systems and you have processes, but because you're doing them on your own, they're living in your head. And so, I mean, even there's a talking about new AI and all of that, right? There's a new program that I just downloaded the other day. I got the free version and I'm just trying to figure it out, but it's called Little Bird and it like tracks your desktop or tracks your laptop when you're working. And so it starts to notice patterns and see what you're doing. And so you could even just have that open for a week and then it'll tell you, okay, the top five SO or top three SOPs that you need to do based off of your patterns are this. Like if you really just don't even know where to start at all, that's what I would do is kind of have someone
What was the name of that again?
little bird.
I
You
will
can
check
add
that
it,
Is
you
it
out.
can like add it to your meeting notes and all of that too.
is it BIRD or BYRD?
Be literally little bird. Like
Okay.
yeah, all one word, BIRD.
Okay, great.
Probably
Thank
one of the only AI things that's not spelled weird.
you.
Also, real quick before I get to you, Jennifer, Brian, I know because you're new, you're doing a lot of open houses. And I think when we talk about SOPs, it's so easy to do like one portion of them. And by all means, do something over nothing if it feels like it's too big of a threshold. But I would say start with the things that you're doing start to finish in total. And so that way you can hand off the pieces that make sense. So, like for your open houses, how do you decide where your signs go? What is the prep work? And that's one SOP. Um, what do you do to prep what you're going to bring with you? And like, what do you bring? Can you make a list of all of those items so that you either have this as something that's like packaged in your car every time, or it's a Canva template that someone updates? What are the conversations you're having people with people in the house? What is your follow up? And so each of those items can be their own document and SOP, but then you just have one master one that literally just lists like signs, what I bring, scripts I have, my follow up, and like putting people in my CRM. And then you just have it linked to each of those would be in my systems brain. How I
I'll
would.
start there.
Jennifer.
So I've got all of my SOPs done. I did those a year or so ago. I think the hard thing for me is to be able to find the right person. I've had TCs, I've had, folks over in the Philippines, VAs, and that sort of thing, and they come and they go. Or I think someone mentioned, I was listening to something earlier today about, they've got their college kid that's helping them out. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but I feel like I'm going through the same cycle all the time where I have people and then oh, they got a real job, and then they moved on. Or it's just somebody who's a VA that doesn't have that personal touch. So my question is, where do you find good people?
I would look at it as a what quality of person are you trying to employ, right? There's definitely a you get what you pay for sort of mindset that you need to go in with. And if you are looking for someone that, I mean, it sounds like you're looking for someone that truly is a growth partner for you versus just that task checker, someone who's going to be big, forward thinking, bring ideas, bring revenue, all of that. And that comes with, they don't have to be like a skilled or I shouldn't say skilled, but like an experienced director of operations, but maybe they have that creative bone that, you're looking for, or you need someone who's really personable, right? Number one, former teachers are like my favorite operators ever. Okay. Number two, if you are creating the environment within your own business that makes people want to stay, they're not going to leave. Right. And so looking at like giving, after a period of time, giving bonuses of, hey, I truly want you to help me grow this thing. And when we hit this amount, then, quarterly bonuses can happen or per transaction bonuses can happen or whatever. Um, but giving, it's almost like the carrot on the stick. Like you have to give them something to, you know, aim towards for their own career growth as well. And I'm not sure if you did that previously. And if you did, then I would probably look at you got dealt a bad hand of admin. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine paying people to do things. That's not the problem. But the incentivizing is an interesting take on it. So that's definitely something I could think about as far as growth goals. I didn't have anything like that prior.
mhm.
Typically, my help comes from the transaction side and the marketing side. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something to think about. And teachers. So I do know some teachers.
Hmm.
Yeah, might want to help out, but again, that's one of those things. Okay, if you're teaching 9 months of the year and then you're not three, it's okay. Then what do I do during that other time frame when they're not available?
Yeah. Well, and, you know, maybe they're looking for a career change too, you
Perhaps, yeah.
know? So it doesn't have to be like, oh, only for the summer. I mean, the the my director of operations right now, she was a former principal and she was like, I need to make a change. I want to be able to work from home. I don't, there's not the career path that I'm looking for. And so having someone with that mindset of when I put in the work, I get to reap the benefits of of that too. That that's definitely helpful.
Thank you.
I have two things to add to that. And Jennifer, you probably have already tried these, but just so it's been said, I think also keeping in mind that sometimes the hires that we're looking for might be two different people. Like
Mhm.
it, and we're so multifaceted. We know that it's out there, right? But to your point, finding that one person can be more difficult. And so maybe starting with that. And then I also think as agents, we feel a lot of burden if we need so much help. And obviously we're willing to pay people well, but also most of us are not in a position to pay someone like a full-time salary, right? And so to your point, that brings the people that are going to eventually evolve likely. And so maybe just starting to find like-minded agents that are also looking for these things and having, three or four of you and
Yeah.
being like, hey, together, can we find someone that we could support in like a bigger way? So hopefully that they're making good enough money
Yeah,
where they
sharing
want.
sharing resources is a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing to add on to that too is like pouring into their own development. Ops people, we tend to kind of just get, okay, do all of this, do all of this, do all of this, right? And then there's masterminds that the agent can go on, and there's training and coaching and all of that. And so finding a community of ops people, I perhaps know of one, that they can join to, have their careers poured into as well.
Amy.
Sorry, couldn't find my way off mute. Um, so I have some basic systems I'm realizing, but what I don't have is SOPs. So what would be the top five that you feel like are must have to start with?
If I'm just talking all the way across the board, I would do your sales process. So your buyer consultation, seller consultation, pre-listing, active listing, open house, you know, all the way from consultation to post-close. However, my actual answer to you is going to be that it's so specific to what you are needing in your business. Because if you already have, a third party TC or somebody helping you do that, then that's not necessarily the highest priority for you. So then I would look at, getting a little bit more granular on what does your CRM look like and operate like? How are leads being nurtured throughout the process of lead comes in and you get into contact with them? Maybe they're not ready right away, but they're going to be ready in a year, right? What does your CRM operate like? How are we making sure that balls aren't being dropped there? Maybe you're big on past client events or, making sure you're getting past client referrals. I would take a deep dive and see where your highest return on your investment for lead sources is. And if that's what you're wanting help expanding on, start there. Hopefully that was helpful and
Yeah,
not
no,
confusing.
that's helpful. Because I think my biggest thing is actually probably referral based. And I
Okay.
do a lot of that, but I don't know that it's operationalized the way it should be. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
After this call, Amy, I'll take a note and I'll send you a couple of contacts. But there's one woman who will do kind of more hand-mailed items. And then I know one of the calls that we had for like how to create a virtual movie night, she talked about a few services that mail things on your behalf. So if you get a lot of referrals and you like kind of the pop by mailer vibe, that would be a good video to check out if you haven't already, because even if you don't do that exact like movie night system, tapping into some of the systems she mentioned in that or resources might be helpful.
That would be great because that's a lot of what I do is, I have a magazine that I send, I have handwritten notes that I do. I just started because I couldn't keep up with it. Have bought into a system where, kind of brownies and treats will be sent on their birthdays. So
Hmm.
that is right up my alley.
Yeah. Yeah. So on that note, like if you're wanting to get all of this together for bringing a new person into the business to help run it, um, they are likely going to be like a client care coordinator for you or something like that. And that's exactly where you need to start with it then because it's like, okay, on their birthday we're sending this. Okay, but the question is how are we getting their birthday? How are we making sure we're putting the birthday into the CRM or the spreadsheet or wherever it lives, right? And so you almost have to work backwards sometimes where it's like end goal is that we're sending, we're getting 50 referrals per year from past clients. And in order to do that, these are all of the activities that we do throughout the year. And here's how we get all of that information from them.
That is super helpful. And you just gave me the name of what I need. It's a client care coordinator.
Yep. And if you need help putting all that structure together, that's quite literally what we do at CoreOps. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
What other questions do you guys have? I'm curious if you have any systems documented what they are, or if there's any that you feel like would be really challenging to document.
Or how you keep them updated, because I feel like that's the challenge too. I mean, of all of the SOPs that you've sent, how many have changed even just within this little bit of time, you know?
Yeah. It makes me wanna, I'm like excited when that happens. I'm like,
It
no.
makes me want to cry a little. Yeah.
Well, I would say if you work with, like Carrie, I'm looking at you, you work with a lot of completely new agents. And so, but you're in a position where, you're bringing on new agents all the time. And so there's obviously a lot of impact that happens when you're working one-on-one with someone. And at the same time, I'm sure you have a lot of the same conversations. So if you haven't already, I would really encourage you to like document a sample, like working with your first buyer in terms of setting up a showing of like
Mhm.
here's how you find the listings and here's what I would print from MLS and here's what to look at in the showing. Maybe record yourself doing a sample one. Anyway, I'm sure this is stuff you already have, but it would be great for you or anyone that's an agent that's potentially bringing on like a showing assistant or you're thinking about starting a team. Things that seem so simple.
So I am streaming this in the coaching room right now, and so there's four agents in here with me. Hello, wave everybody. Um, So I guess one of the questions that I wanted to touch on, I think that's a challenge for new agents is when you're brand new to the industry, you want to kind of figure out how does this work? How do I do this? So you kind of get into things, you get your hands dirty and start doing things. And it's helpful at the front end to be the one doing those things because then you know how it works and what it needs to look like, the timeline, how you'd like it to be in theory, all those kinds of things. But then at some point, you don't want to keep repeating the same tasks over and over. And so it's time to create systems to help make you more efficient so that you can grow your business with less effort, do the same thing with less effort, like you're saying. Then you can go to your events, family events that you may previously have been missing because you were working so much. So I guess my question is to you is, for our newer agents, what is the best way to kind of balance that of, learning the ropes and how each of these processes work? And at what point should we start building out our systems in your idea, to be efficient in that?
I think that, give me a second on this because
Hang on a second. I don't know why I'm gonna unplug this. Having a little technical difficulty with the TV in the room. So I'm gonna switch audio. And now I just froze. Great. Here we go. Hold on. I'm gonna switch audio here. Make this. All right. Testing, testing. Say something for me.
can you hear us?
Okay, let me turn up my computer. For some reason, the TV is like cutting in and out and it's driving us crazy. This will be a little bit quiet, you guys. Hope you can hear that. Okay, go ahead.
So I think that, you're the team owner, correct?
We're not a team. So I'm a coach.
Got it.
We've got, our newer agents that join Choice.
Got it.
Usually new to real estate, so they're getting started, but they are independent agents building out their own businesses.
Okay. So what you're asking is like how long essentially should they run by trial and error versus having a documented process, essentially?
Yeah, what is sort of that ideal transition timeline? Assuming, let's say that, some people are part-time, some people are full-time in real estate, but let's say they're a full-time person in real estate, so they have some time to commit. They want to get in, try out the things. Let me do a buyer's consult, see what that's going to look like in my world. At what point would you recommend they start building out systems to streamline that whole process and make their process more efficient?
Yeah, I think this is not a cop out, okay? It is so dependent on the person and what the standard and expectation is that the client is receiving in the end, okay? So I have a program called Strategy to Scale. And one of the first things that we go through is building out what that core foundation of your business looks like, okay? So we go through exercises like defining your core values and defining what your core promise and your core function is. And essentially that core promise and core function is the greater impact that you want to have on your community or on your clients, in general, not necessarily like, oh, I help them buy and sell real estate, but like, are you building a connection with them? Are you building a relationship with them? Are you like Amy and you're receiving, X amount of repeat business because of the continued, love that you give to them afterwards. So I think that in order to be able to say like you need to do this for a certain period of time, you have to have figured out how you're achieving that impact and achieving that core promise, core function, in order to be able to say, yes, this is the SOP, this is how it works, all of that. I hope that gave a little bit of clarity.
Yeah, I think that can be helpful. Like one thing that I've shared with agents is to think about your business in three parts. You've got your business of production where you're helping people buy and sell. You have some education, which is what we're doing right now, is making ourselves stronger so that we can serve our clients at a higher level. And then hard part is building out your systems because there's no need to keep repeating the same task over and over if you can create a system that makes that process more efficient for yourself. And so what that ends up looking like for each agent may be different. And so in the context of, let me try this out, see what this looks like for me. Also through the lens of hopefully your business plan. So as agents are building out a business plan, here's where my business is going to come from. Here's what my activities are going to look like. Here are my goals and the activities that will lead to those goals. That ties into what systems should I be creating to support those activities and goals. So for instance, if somebody decides in their business plan that they're going to do lots of open houses as a source of lead gen, then there at some point ideally would be systems to support that whole process of being able to produce open houses or run open houses on a regular basis.
Right.
Somebody else who's not doing open houses doesn't need the open house system or
Right.
so and again, I think it depends a little bit maybe on the timeline of how involved and how active they are in real estate or how quickly they're trying to build something out as a piece of that. But
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you're looking for an actual number, right, I would say probably doing it maybe 3 to 5 full times the same exact way. And then you're like, okay, got it. This is the way that it works. Now let's write it down. And in the future, we're just going to add to it because we know that this foundation right here works. Right. And so let's use the open house. It's like, all right, I know that if I have, 4 open houses a month, it gives me X amount of leads on average. Those leads are nurtured and I get, 2 closings. Right. So if you do 4 open houses, essentially you get 2 closings. But the SOP within it, if now you're like, I want 3 closings, but I don't have any more time to do more than 4 open houses. Okay, great. What do we have to add to that foundational system of the open house process in order to have more people come?
I
So,
love thank
I'm gonna run it back completely and contradict myself from what I said at the start of the call. Obviously, we're talking a lot about going very in depth in our systems and creating SOPs, but I think also as a completely new agent when you're first starting your business, like don't discount the impact of simply having an email template. And you maybe are pulling that first template from someone else that's an experienced agent. And then in your second transaction, you're really fine tuning to find your voice with it. And by your third and fourth one, you're like, okay, this is what I've learned from my experiences that I need to either consolidate or expand upon, or maybe split this into 2 because people don't read things, right? And so I would start with those and also don't discount a checklist. And Lauren, and also like, don't be afraid to keep it simple. I know Lauren was just talking about your return on things, and it made me think of when I was an agent, I literally just made this Word document and added some just random squares to it. And I would just make a process of every buyer consultation or listing consultation I would have, I would put a cross through. And then as they went under contract, I would make it an X. And then once they closed, I would color it in, right? And same thing as once they converted to a contract. So one, I could look and just see like, okay, I don't know what I should be doing. I know that these 4 people haven't turned into a contract yet, or these 3 people. And out of all of these, I have a lot of contracts that are potentially on the table. And I can also look at this and say, okay, out of these 5 appointments, I know that 1 or 2 will turn into a contract, right? And so just starting so simply, but just noting things somewhere, I would say is like a system in and of itself, and not to feel like you have to create everything from the very beginning.
yeah.
Cool.
you. There questions you want to ask? All right, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Welcome.
y'all. Anything else? Wendy, I know you came off mute at one point. Did you have something you wanted to ask or share?
I think it was a mistake. Thank you very much, though.
Cool.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Maria Luisa, anything on your end? All right, y'all. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being here today. Also, thank
Of
you all for
course.
sharing so much and talking about your business like we talked about. I know it's unique to all of us, but at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. We still want to grow personally, professionally, as a business, and also want to show up in our own lives. So, cheers to all of you. That's what our community is for. If you have templates that you found that you feel are a good resource, or you want some eyes on an SOP that you've created, send it to either of us. I will make sure Lauren's contact is in the email when this recording goes out. But until then, I hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.